back, everyone. My name is Alex Martinez from Creating Coding Careers, where we help aspiring developers transition into ServiceNow and software engineering roles. So over the past few years, we've been focusing on ServiceNow, getting people into that ecosystem. But as of late, Mike would like to expand and grow. So we're starting to move into other platforms like Salesforce and Microsoft. So moving forward, you'll see that we're going to start bringing in more specialists in those ecosystems as well. And today, we do have a guest speaker in the Microsoft space. He's a software engineer. He's got 16 years of experience. 7 of those years is with Microsoft. He's very passionate about Microsoft Azure and even created a YouTube series dedicated to the subject. I would like to give a big welcome to Balram Prasad. Welcome, Balram.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, guys.
And so Mike, our CEO, is here. Mike, I'm going to bring you in real quick.
Hey,
Mike.
Mike, you got Balram with us. Wanted to know if you wanted to kick us off with any questions from Balram.
yeah, for sure. I'd love to hear sort of like what got you into the Microsoft ecosystem, and where you think it fits for like early career technologists today.
Yeah, so I started my career with Java related things, not with Microsoft technology, but slowly I moved to Microsoft related technology due to lot of different reasons. One, it was easy to use for me at that point of time, and because a lot of systems we were using that point of time has Windows OS, and lot of ecosystem was already built in, and it is easily available all the places. So that's how I went into Microsoft related technology. And then I started coding with the .NET related applications. So I started liking on that ecosystem altogether. So then I started with leaving that other things aside and focusing on Microsoft related technologies.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people early on, they're sort of like all these technologies get thrown their way. They're told Python is popular. You should learn this. You should learn that. And I think it's helpful for them to kind of hear that, it's perfectly fine to start your career in Java and then suddenly move into more of like the .NET and the Microsoft space, and that each ecosystem has so much to it. Like are you using any like .NET Core, or are you using ASP.NET or just .NET Framework? Can you talk a little bit about like how you've navigated that? Even the ecosystem within .NET is pretty big.
Yeah, so once you are comfortable in any programming language or technology, right? I started with Java and moved to .NET starting. So both are object oriented systems. Both has kind of similar syntaxes. It is just that you will need some time to transition, but all the concept, all this whatever logic is there, you want to implement that, you can do the similar here also. And once you have some kind of start with one of the language and be good at that place, and then you can do anything into another language also, similar thing, because logic remains same. So you have just have to learn about syntaxes. Either you move to Python, either you go for a Scala, either you do go for any language, kind of logic is same, almost syntax are same, just you have to play, you can find with Google or Bing, whatever you want to do it and just use it. So that's how we do it. I generally started with Java, moved to .NET, but because now I moved to different in .NET also, that sometime I was working with .NET framework, then I worked on .NET core, then I can right now in data world I am working kind of, sometime I do work on Python scripts, I do work on that Scala script. So there is nothing that you can stick with one programming language or one technology stack. You can do anything. Just starting them, when you are starting your career, just focus on one thing, whatever you like.
Yeah. No, I love that too. What you said at the end there, what you like, because you got to enjoy it, right? You shouldn't
Yeah,
just
you have to.
because someone says it's popular and they're hearing that it's growing. Everybody wants to learn Rust. It's like the most favorite developer, new developer language. But if you don't like it, then it's going to be painful for you, right? And so,
Yes.
like you said, once you learn one, regardless of what it is, you can take that transferable knowledge, move it somewhere else. So, yeah. Alex, love to hand it over to you, let you fire off a few questions, and also love to hear questions from the audience. So if you have any questions for Maram, make sure you get those into the comment section, and we'll read off those comments and questions and let him just kick some knowledge to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. So, Balram, I always love, first thing I like to do with our guest speakers is just ask them, how did they get into code? So I would love to hear your origin story. A lot of us here at CCC are people who've transitioned from other careers into code. Some of us are transitioning from the military into code, some of us from the healthcare industry or whatever other industries into coding. I had the chance to talk to you backstage for a little bit before we went live, and I already know that you've been a tech guru for quite some time, but I'd love to hear the origin story. Like, how did you get into technology? What sparked your interest in tech?
Yeah, so as we were talking about that, when I started education part with plain graduation, where I was reading about chemistry honors and doing some experiment over there, but I was not enjoying. And then I was not enjoying, so I was not good at it at that, right? So I have to drop that course itself. Then I hear that something called computers is there, because that time I was not familiar with computers and other things. So some of my friends were familiar, and they told me that this is that going to be big. If you want to learn, you can learn. Then I started learning and reading about that, and then I got the passion that let's learn about this one. This seems interesting, and I can do that. So then I started, I enrolled in a course which was again graduation with computer application. So I did that. And in that, when I was doing that one, I was not more focused on theoretical part. I was doing some of the application. So I started with VB. That was that point of time. .NET was also not came in that point of time. So I started with VB. VB6 was there, and then suddenly after that one I started Java and other things. So after passing out my graduation, I started a job inside a company, a small company in India, that was a service based company. So I started coding into Java, and it was a kind of apprentice kind of job where there was nothing. So we started on that part. And Indian Railway was client, and I worked with them. And that point there was no cloud computing and other things. That was pure vanilla on premises world was there. So that I learned that how service application works, how to develop application for client, and how this all the application development happens. Then I got to know that about another small company who was developing the software application which is generally bundled with storage devices. So that company was seems for me interesting because I was developing client application. So I thought let's get a try that, give an interview to that company so that I can learn about something new. So that I joined that company, and then I started developing the software. So the company was based on Taiwan, and they were doing some kind of a storage like NAS storage, SAN storage, and they were bundling the utility software. Like you have backup software, you have FTP software, or you can share the file, you can access the file which is stored on your hard disk from anywhere where the internet connection is there. So that inspired me, and I was started working on that piece, right? I was working on that system utility development piece. So I enjoyed that one, and that became my kind of a habit. Like after a couple of years I start feeling boring. Hey, this is that same thing I'm doing, nothing new I have to learn. So I joined another company which was basically enterprise mobility company. So that company, we were developing, the platform was in .NET, core platform on the server side. Client side, all the Symbian mobile application, BlackBerry or Windows, iPhone. So all this was client, and they were talking to platform, and then we were talking internally to SAP backend and ERP systems and other things. So that company I learned about more mobile development and other things. 2.5 years again feel boring. Then I changed another company called Diebold. That was ATM based company, the second largest manufacturer of world, the ATM machines. So then how ATM machines works, how that you to have to develop the software which works on ATM stacks and other things. So we worked a couple of years over there, and then I got the opportunity to join to Microsoft.
So for someone who's new to coding, we have this concept of cloud computing. Can you give us an explanation, as if you're talking to maybe like a 8-year-old, a 10-year-old? What is cloud computing? And talk a little bit about Microsoft Azure as it falls under that umbrella.
Yeah. So now, to go in very basic, if you have to develop any applications, right? You have to develop application, you have to host somewhere. So that application where you are going to host on the some machine itself. So either you have to buy some machine and put it to your house and put internet connection and other things where you are going to put host it. And the later that model changed, and a lot of company in a lot of time was doing that way, that hey, they have to have lot of servers in their data centers, and then you go and develop any application, put it over there so that people can use that one. and eventually that data center got transformed by this bigger company into cloud computing, where they have now data centers. Apart from these companies offer a lot of different services. So now it became very easy, because that point of time you have to, for development you have to have a machine, and you have to have a good machine with internet connection where you can host your application. Development is okay, you can go ahead and open any machines, you can do development, but how you are going to give it to user, where user can come and connect to your application, suppose a mobile application or a suppose Amazon application, right? Amazon website. So if we develop a such kind of website, how we are going to host over there? That is a bigger challenge after development, because once you are developed and tested in your local machine, you have to expose to your consumers. Consumer can use it. Then if you deploy that any machine, either at your home or somewhere, you have to maintain it and other things, right? So, and if it is a scale part, if your application is growing, then you have to buy thousands of computers and put it in somewhere. So that's how this cloud computings are there. Now you do not have to worry about all this complexity about hardwares and how to manage that one, how to make a patch of the system, or how to secure them, how to do connectivity and other things. You just have to go into any platform. It's just that, hey, I need this kind of system or this services, I can utilize that one. So that is typically in nutshell cloud computing is there, where you have different options by this bigger cloud computing provider. Either you take Microsoft Azure, either you take AWS, either GCP, and there are few more which is coming up. So they have that services. You go over there, don't think about anything, just in 15-20 minutes you will get whatever you need.
Are there any particular strengths that maybe Azure has over AWS or Google Cloud Platform? Like, what are some of the advantages of using it?
So Azure has advantage over other, that Microsoft has a lot of enterprise applications which is used by enterprise applications. So you can, if you compare about basic services, all major three providers have basic services. Like if you want to develop any web application, that you can do in same way inside Azure, you can host that one. So when you are starting with website development, what you are going to choose, the first thing you are going to choose that a which tech stack you are going to do, right? Like mean, you want to do that in mean stack, you are going to develop that one. Now after that one, where you are going to host that one. So if you want to host into Linux world, you can do same way inside Microsoft Azure, same way inside AWS, same way inside GCP. But when these things grows up, when there are integrations with a lot of different other softwares or other systems which enterprise consumer uses, there Microsoft Azure has benefit, because Microsoft Azure has a lot of different stacks where you can integrate with this enterprise. Like you have Dynamics, if some consumer is using Dynamics, then it is easy to develop a add-ons and host into Azure, and that's how it is easy to collaborate and integrate. So that's where that Azure shines in.
Can you explain the different types of services provided by Azure? Maybe going a little bit into the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service.
Yeah, so as we talked about Azure, Azure is a cloud computing service, right? So Azure provides all type of services in this world, right? That infra as a services. If you need any infra, like you need virtual machines, or virtual machine is just a similar same as a physical machine. If you want into cloud and you do not want to manage your hardwares, you can just take that one into virtual machine, and that is a kind of infra as a services provided by Azure. Same way, if you want to use something called platform as a service, where you will get some of the services which is easy to use, and we can talk more about that. And then software is a service. Like nowadays, if you see that we have Office, right? We just open that into our Chrome browser or any browser, and we use that. That is a software as a service. That software is built by Microsoft, and they are charging based on your subscription. So you can we can also build the service and host over there, and the similar model also works over there. So these are the few type of services offered by Microsoft, and now there are more coming up slowly by slowly. If you see somebody says that function as a service, that is serverless as a service, we can talk about. And there are many more. Container as a service is there, or you can say that database as a service is there. So that is, there are tons of services over there, but basically there are three only: infra as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And there are different time you want to use that one. Maybe if you need, if for just for VM, for in doing any other R&D, then you can go for take the VM. But when you take the VM, then it is your responsibility to patch that VMs, make it secure, because once you start the VM, you have to provide that which operating system you want. And like in our machine, like similar to our machine, if you buy our machines at home, it is our responsibility that we make secure, like we have antivirus enabled or not, we have updated softwares or not, we have patching is done for our operating system is not. So that part relies with people who are using infra as a service. But if you take the platform as a service offerings, that some of the things goes away from us, because we do not manage that kind of services directly. So in case of, suppose you want to take you want to develop a simple web application. Now there are many options for us. Like I can develop that ASP.NET application in and deploy into VM also. I can have in IS servers and I can deploy. But I can deploy into platform as a service for app services also. There are options for that one. So it depends upon that how what I want to do. Do I want to more control or my hardwares, or I want to choose more thing over there? I have more, or what kind of application from starting I am developing? Do I have already a system which is being such kind of hardware, and I want to just lift and shift? So then we have to decide that which kind of services we want to use. And similar case for software is a service also, that there are some services which we can leverage as a software as service. You want to have this if you want to build that kind of office, or you want to use the dynamics and other things for ERP and other things, that is software service kind of applications.
So how does Azure handle security and compliance? In other words, what measures are in place to protect data and the applications that you're putting up there?
Yeah, that really depends upon which kind of services offer. Like if you have infra as a service, then some of the part is a responsibility, and that we call a shared responsibility. If you are using infra as a service, then some part is on us. If you open any virtual machine ports, right, if it is hacked by that, of that means that Microsoft is not responsible for it. But if you take a platform as a service, the patching and other things is done by them, similar to all other services. After that one, from security point of view, they pretend that, hey, their data center is managed with some security software with endpoint management and other things. So you are not going to have DDoS attack kind of things, that if somebody is trying to have DDoS attack, their services will detect and stop that kind of services. That is one kind of security there is there. The other side from compliance also, that, hey, if I'm using Azure SQL, how I am storing the data? So there is encryption enabled on a storage or not. That kind of services is provided. Identity is another service where we can configure that authentication, authorization kind of things. That security also we have, and we have service called Azure Active Directory for that, where all this user management, authentication, authorization, we can use that one. And then apart from that one, we can have traffic manager, app gateway, where some kind of application firewall and other things we can consider. If we are dealing with a virtual machine itself, then you can enable which kind of ports you can enable or disable, what kind of communication between two virtual network can happen. That kind of security is present, and we need to configure that one. So
Can you highlight some of the key tools and resources available to manage and monitor your apps up there that you put up in Azure?
yeah, so if we suppose we are deploying a web application, right, and then there is Azure Monitor over there. So when we develop any application, we put some logs. Previously, that logs generally went to database and or in text files, and now there is a service called Monitor. So where we write all the telemetry, and based on telemetry, we can see that, hey, from where all this traffic is coming, what is uptime, what is the response of my API is there, what is the user behavior, right? From which place user is starting from which page and it is going to which page, and how this user journey looks like from that portal. What is the most used pages or most used functionality over there? That depends upon most of the times that what telemetry we want to build inside our application code or what we want to transmit. But basic we can get this kind of that from where your traffic is coming, what IP, what server, what cities, what geography it is coming, and all you can get from Azure Monitor and application inside. There is a service called application inside we can get, and we can set up all the alert and related things from there. Hey, if this is if my application is deployed into some of the services in my virtual machine, if I deployed into virtual machine, my CPU is going beyond 75%, then might be my performance will go down. So I should be getting alert. So that kind of configuration I can get. Or based on, suppose I have a schedule based, or if I know that hey, my 75% is traffic is reached for CPU, let's spin up another virtual machine or something like that, another resource for scaling purpose. That kind of configuration also we can do. So that typically Azure monitors, log analytics, and application inside, all these are there for supporting this kind of activities.
So I've been perusing your YouTube series here, and I see a bunch of great YouTube videos where you show people how to create a WordPress site and then use Azure, and then how you can create a Node.js web app in Azure. So you have all these great videos on all these cool things that you can, use in conjunction with Azure. Can you give us some business use cases or most common business use cases where Azure is used?
Yeah, so if you want to develop a highly skilled website, right? I suppose you are going to develop a website which should be available into all region, all of the globe, and you do not want to. There are multiple ways to do that, right? If you host that into one geographic region, that also will be consumed by all of the people because that is open. But if you wanted that his same kind of performance, because if somebody is hitting that website which is hosted in US from India, there is a latency over there, so that traffic has to travel from India to US. But if you wanted to develop a highly available solution and highly performance, then you might want to consider that hey, I want to develop this solution in such a way that one piece of web app will be hosted here, and one of the piece hosted into Indian data center, and based on some traffic rules, I will decide that my Indian user will always hit to Indian data centers on my, or maybe not from a skill purpose. Also, there is a compliance purpose also, that lot of times we generally decide that hey, if you wanted to store a particular country data into that country location, also that is another topic. But if you want to develop that kind of application, we generally see that hey, Amazon is there, Facebook is there, but how they're scaling, how the same performance we get from all the time, because they are globally distributed, all the system, they have all the presence into all of the places, and when we hit any website, it goes to nearest data center, and that kind of infra generally as a developer or a company also, that is not possible. So then if you want to go for that scale, you can choose that our Azure or any cloud platform. If the other reason that if you wanted to have any big data processing, right? Big data processing is also boom, and you need to have lot of computes for that one. Either you have to have Azure Databricks or a Spark and other things which can process your data in very short span of time with a lot of large clusters. And that having that cluster or compute in your local home or local data center might not be possible for all of us, because when we talk about system and our data centers locally, then there is a capex and other thing, because you need to buy first. And that subscription, when we talk about cloud computing, that is mostly that hey, what I'm going to use, that is I am going to pay. I do not want to pay in that cost to buy the
Yeah.
system. I want to pay manage the systems and other things. So that is one of the reason people generally tend to go into Azure. Hey, I want to do a quick POC or something. I do not know that my solution or my work is going to give me a lot of money. Why to invest so much cost in buying these hardwares, right? or doing that one. So let's grab a sorter, whatever needed services is there. Let's try that one, and let's host over there, because I do not have me. I might have 5 people team. I don't want to manage whole infra. So let's do that over there, so that we do not have to manage, we do not have to pay upfront cost, and if I do not need that one, I can destroy quickly, I can save something over there. So that is lot of reasons to go for cloud computing, and that is why people are moving over there.
So let's say you already have an application, and what is the process like for migrating something over to Microsoft Azure? How complicated is that, and what are some of the things we should take in consideration when doing that?
So there, that depends upon which kind of application is there. So there suppose I would take that, if you have a web application which is already been running into your in-house data center, or maybe in your system, and it is one part where you have web application, the second part is database, or where you are storing files or anything like that. So how you are going to migrate that? You can take the lift shift. There are a couple of ways that how that company or team decide. If you want to do for quickly, fully develop that software for the cloud usage, you can go and rebuild the software. That, hey, I want to redevelop and remove all the pieces which is dependent on that one. So that is time consuming, and a lot of teams needed that. Nobody does that one. So you can lift shift that code, whatever you have, and you can move to infra as a services generally. That whatever is there, let's move that one. I will use that one, and slowly we will see that how to use that cloud native features, which is good for cloud, and then use. If you suppose a web application develop into and running into IaaS, it is easy that I will start a VMs with whatever configuration I need required for RAM and CPU. I will create a infra. I will spin up IS server over there, move it to there, because it is not easy to that from your VM, so local machine, to migrate to app services into password. Both our services are same. You have to have. You can have a web application into virtual machines also. You can deploy the web application into platform as a service also. But there might be some tweak you need to do. So first, you might want to consider that, hey, let's lift shift this my system into that place. And similar thing for database also. If you have any database, suppose you have MySQL, or you have PostgreSQL, right? I'm not going with Microsoft Word for MS SQL. Suppose you have a LAMP server which you are using Linux-based application, Apache IS. You can just create a VM, and you can have that IS servers and other, Apache servers over there into VMs, and expose the web app part. Similar thing, you can have second VM where you can have that install your MySQL or PostgreSQL, and you can migrate the data using whatever technology you want to do that one. Either copy that all the data, take the backup, and restore over there. That part you can do, and then slowly migrate to platform as a services related things, because the best, as you move to infra to platform, then you can scale all this feature, because managing VM is also tough. It is not easy. So that when then you want to go for that one, then you little bit switch that application, little bit we reconfigure the application so that you can deploy that application. LAMP application also we can deploy into Azure App Services, and you might have seen that one, that how to deploy that WordPress application and other things. We do not have to manage VMs and other things. So deploy that into your app services. And similar way, we have platform as a service offering for this databases also, then we can move to that database also slowly.
Balram, you're a wealth of knowledge. You're quite the expert, obviously, in Microsoft Azure. Like, say somebody wants to follow in your footsteps and start working with cloud computing. I understand there's certifications that they can train for. Which ones would you recommend, either training programs or certifications, if they're interested in becoming proficient for Microsoft Azure?
Yeah, so certification programs and other programs are good, but I do not say that, hey, go for certification program. You just take any couple of project which you wanted to do, just basic one, that, hey, I want to develop a website, I want to start with my career with web developer or something. You just deploy, build that system into your local machine. Go ahead, and when you go for Azure, they offer 200 $50, I guess, credit. So you have to have one credit card to go and configure that one. But till $2,000, $200, they will not charge anything. So just spin up that resources. You can get a lot of good documentation, also lot of good videos. Also, we do not have to pay for certification cost and other things. And Microsoft has a site, Microsoft Learn, also, where we can find that one. That spin up that resources, try it, test it, and then see if that should be working. Because of, you can find the documentation, you can reach out to different peoples also. There are a lot of support people, lot of people in community help that one. So that way you start learning. So I prefer that when you do it, without doing theoretically, you cannot be that kind of expert from that system.
So, any last advice for somebody interested in pursuing a career in cloud computing?
So yeah, so basic is that your application development cloud is kind of making our lives easy. That hey, you want to host that kind of application with good scale, good security and other things, but still you have to know about this security part. We say that hey, cloud computing and other things are there and it is secure and other things, but if your application does not abide that security policy, right? You, if you have Microsoft says that hey, app services is secure, but if you do not enable that HTTPS service itself on that settings itself, then it is not secure. Then you have to know that what is the security all about. If we are developing application, the basic thing is that we need to know that how a secure code we are going to write, right? So that part of the things, we should not have that basic thing that we are start writing, and when we are doing authentication and other things, we should be making sure that we do proper authentication, authorization and other things that no cloud computing is going to teach us. That we have to also learn that here how to write a proper code with all the security principle which we learn during the development. And then hosting is that part, and deployment, hosting and all this comes with the help of cloud computing. But let's take one good stake which you think that hey, I am very comfortable and I like that. Then you learn that, and then you can go to anyone. After 6 months and a year, I'm working on 1 year, if you think that hey, I'm good, then you can use that technology. You can use your experience on any of the technology with you. Because basically, if you see that development is all about, you are going to develop web application, you are going to do some application which is running onto back end. So you can have, but logic is same. It is just that in backend application there will be different kind of GUI or no GUI. In in web application there is a running on the browser piece. So that piece you can develop, but the same thing whatever you can do with lamp, you can do with Microsoft related technology, you can do with other technology also. So technology choice, you figure out, learn basic thing, and then move to any other places.
Great advice. Thank you, Balram. For all of you, I did drop in the link to his YouTube series. If you want to know anything about Azure, he has a great series of videos going over the subject. But I think best would probably go check out his LinkedIn video, LinkedIn URL, which I posted right now. Go ahead and click on his series. It'll take you right to the YouTube series. And he has a lot of great videos about how to integrate Microsoft Azure with whatever you guys are working on. Balram, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we covered just the fundamentals today, and would love to maybe invite you back in the near future to dig a little bit deeper into some of the more complicated topics. But thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who's listening, thank you again for joining us. We will be live again next Friday at 3 o'clock. Mike Roberts, our CEO, is going to be talking to Kali Alexander later on today at 5:30. They're going to be talking all about apprenticeships, all about creating coding careers, and how Mike is building the front door into tech. So go check that out over at Kali's platform. Thanks again, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend. Balram, thank you again.
Hey,
you have a great
thank you.
weekend
Thank you,
too,
guys.
and hope to see you in the near future.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.